Hello, welcome. I'm Kat Millar from Amplify Your Influence, and I'm so excited to share with you tonight 5 ingredients of a successful presentation. And a presentation could be anything where you're presenting information to your client. So it could be, or to your potential client or your audience, your followers. So it could be that you're presenting a Facebook Live video. It could be that you're presenting a webinar or a workshop or even just a small piece of content on your website, on a social media post, anywhere where you're showing up and presenting information. There's 5 main ingredients that help you structure actually how to put your words together so that it really lands, that it engages people, it attracts them, it maintains their attention, and it engages them. And so as someone who presents quite regularly, I often get asked, what makes a really successful presentation? How do you create a successful presentation? And so I want to talk quite a bit about the structure here and show you exactly how to structure your content. I'm going to share with you some of the tips that I've learned over the years, having run now well over 200 events, both live, in person and online over the last 10 plus years. I've picked up some tools and strategies that have really helped me. And so if you want to run any type of live event, any kind of workshop, whether that's in person or online, whether that's live or pre-recorded, any kind of webinar, video, this is going to help you. So welcome those of you who are on here live. It's great to have you on here. So live events, workshops, webinars, Zoom events, they're really sweeping the world right now. So many people are jumping on the bandwagon. It's a trend that so many people are jumping on board with. And when it comes to creating successful presentations, there's a few fundamental things that you need to know that every single presentation should have. And every single presentation, if it has these things, then it can do what it's meant to do, which is connect with people. If you don't connect with people, if it doesn't land with people, then it won't be successful, right? So what are those things? What are the 5 ingredients of a successful presentation? And I'm going to be sharing predominantly about the structure of a presentation. All right, so let's dive straight into it. If you haven't already, grab a pen and paper and make some notes because I'm going to be giving you lots of gold in this session tonight. So number 1, the first thing that we need to do if we're going to build out a successful presentation and structure it correctly so that it lands and really connects with people, number 1 is to appeal to every type of learner. So the first thing we need to do is appealing to every type of learner. So obviously there's all different learning styles. There's different ways that people process information, and there are a lot of ways of teaching and educating people around certain topics. The most important thing to keep in mind though is this, is that everybody who shows up and listens to your presentation learns in a different way. And these ways can be broken down into 4 overarching core strategies. We've obviously got many personalities and different learning styles and different characters and all sorts of things. You know, every single person is completely unique, but there's 4 overarching core strategies which are really 4 learning styles, and a lot of people just teach in their own learning style instead of actually covering all 4 of these learning styles. And so there are people out there that like to learn based on their personal values. So they really want to learn what's important to them, what's super aligned to their most highest values. So we call them the why learner, where they need to know why. Why am I learning this? And they need to know that very fast. Because if we don't appeal to what's important to them, they're just going to switch off really fast. So we need to be able to start talking about the benefits and why it's valuable very quickly for these types of learners. The second way people like to learn is using statistics, stories, research, research, evidence, and data, facts, the origin of things, proof, evidence, very left brain type information. So people like to have evidence to back up what you're saying. They like to hear numbers. They like to have data. They like to kind of analyze it. They like to know how things work, the origin, what's actually the proof to back up what you're saying. The third way that people like to learn is how things actually work. What are the mechanics? How do I actually put it into action? So, okay, I get why, I get the benefits, I get why it's important, I understand the reasons, it aligns to my values, so I will stay engaged. Okay, cool. Okay, now I understand what is actually going on, the origin, the stats, the facts, the statistics, the research, the evidence. Okay, cool. So how does all this work? What is the structure of how I go 1, 2, 3? How do I do it? How do I put this into action? And so we've got to make sure that we have structure in our presentations that take people through a process. We cannot just throw random information at people. It's got to be organized. The most successful people have organized knowledge. They've organized their knowledge. So if you are teaching someone how to cook a beautiful cake, you have organized your knowledge around the recipe for this cake. There is the ingredients, there's the order that you put it in, there's what is in it, but also how to do it. You might say, oh, it's important for you to understand this cake recipe because you want to make sure that you impress your friends and you want to make sure that it comes out light and fluffy. You're giving the wine and you're explaining where the recipe came from. Maybe it was your grandma's recipes from 100 years ago. And then how do you actually do it? This is the actual step by step. Okay, add the flour, the butter, the sugar, turn the oven on to 180. So the way people like to learn is when we've really organized our information and structured it in a way that makes sense and we can flow with it. And then the fourth way that people like to learn is by getting the information and tweaking it and breaking it down. And I don't know if you were one of those kids that like to take things apart when you're a kid and then just see if you can put it back together. And this learning style is really lateral. So people who are very creative and think outside of the box and think, okay, I want to get the information, I want to break it down, I want to refine it, I want to tweak it, I want to add a piece here, and I want to take that piece out. So they're basically taking your information and evolving it. And this is often innovation, right? Innovation is often taking two ideas and putting them together, two ideas that exist already. So if you've got those learning styles, people that come onto your presentation, you want to make sure that you're enabling them to think, what if, think outside the box, how can I apply this, tweak it, change it, remove things, add things. So those are 4 different ways that people learn, and most people just teach to one of them. They teach to their preferred learning style instead of all 4 of them. So it's so important that you don't miss out on the rest of your audience by just speaking to your preferred style. So remember, speak the way people listen, not the way you talk. It is a game changer. If you get this, if you can rotate between these learning styles, and I know I've only touched on them really briefly, but I do encourage you to understand these learning styles if you're going to give any type of content delivery. If you're delivering your content in any type of way to any human being, it makes so much sense to understand how people receive information. It's different often to how you receive information. All right, number 2 is moving your audience. So when it comes to ingredients of a successful presentation, you need to be able to move your audience. And moving your audience is not telling them what to do. Just telling them step 1, step 2, step 3 doesn't move them. We move people.
My apologies.
Oh,
I couldn't.
Sorry. We move people by tapping into their values, moving them emotionally, using stories, moving them down a process of inspiration and influence to actually take action. So a presentation is not just for someone to get more information. That's not it. If you just deliver a presentation that gives people information, they could have just Googled it, right? Anyone can just Google anything now. A presentation that moves you. If you think of a presentation that's moved you, like maybe you've watched a TED Talk or you've watched a really empowering, inspiring, or motivational speaker, it's not because they've given you all these facts and they've just given you information. It's because they've moved you emotionally. And so the way we do this is through stories, through being vulnerable, through showing our humility and our struggles and how we have overcome them. So we've gone from this vulnerable place of not knowing what to do and then solving it. So going from like vulnerability to victory. So you don't want to stay stuck in your drama story. I was speaking to a friend about it today. It's not vulnerability for vulnerability's sake of just, hey, I'm like you, I'm down here struggling. It's actually to show them, hey, I was there and I've moved to victory. So you need to be able to show people that you can move them from here to here, not by steps, but by tapping into the emotion. Number 3 is providing value. Providing value. Now, value, what is value? Right? What actually is it? Value is something that helps someone improve their life. So it helps someone improve the quality of their life. So what's valuable to one person might not be valuable to someone else. So if you think about your values, what's important to you, if someone is helping you get more of what you value, you're going to enjoy their presentation. If someone is helping you understand your values even more and is speaking about your highest values, then you're going to give them your attention. If someone is speaking about things you don't value, you're not going to give them your attention. It's not going to be a successful presentation. So you want to give value by tapping into people's values, by talking about the things that they are most interested in and not just random information. So value is only value if you understand the problem that precedes it. So if you're selling the most incredible recipe for the most amazing cake, but you're trying to sell it to someone who's gluten-free and dairy-free, and your recipe has flour and butter in it, it's not valuable. So you might be going, but it's the best recipe in the world. It's my grandma's and it was amazing and it tastes so good. That's not value to that person if they can't eat the cake, right? And I know it sounds overly simple, but if you think about this analogy, value is only value if it solves a problem for someone that they have. So we've got to know our audience. I would never give a presentation unless I've found out about them. What are their biggest pain points? A lot of people just want to show up and present and just throw out content, like this is how much I've learned and this is, let me teach you stuff. But that's not valuable unless that person has that specific problem. We're all inundated with information, right? We're all overloaded with information and just stuff coming at us. We have low attention spans now, so we'll only pay attention. It will only be a successful presentation as if that person is giving value based on our highest values. If you think right now, I want you to think right now, what's one of your highest priorities right now? Like, what is one of the problems that you have in your life that maybe you're mulling over and you want to solve? If someone comes along and they give you content that's way down here, that's way down on your hierarchy, like if you think of your problems in your goals, your desires in terms of a hierarchy, if someone is giving information that's down here and you've got all these other priorities stacked way above it, it's not really value. You think, oh, that's kind of nice information, but if someone's not taking action on what you're sharing in your presentation, then it's not value. So value is all about helping people solve their highest priorities. And we do that by understanding our audience, right? So whenever I give a live presentation or if I go and give a keynote talk, I'll always survey those people because I want to know, like, what are you struggling with? How can I help you? What's your biggest pain points? What's your dreams, your desires? And if I speak to that, I know that I'm giving them value. So that's number 3, is providing value. Number 4, and this one sounds a little bit tricky, but it's actually really simple. Number 4 is using a combination of the left and right brain hemispheres. So we've got left brain hemisphere, right brain hemisphere. And so something I learned way back in the day of a guy called Brian Tracy. You might have heard of Brian Tracy. He's a great public speaker, presenter, and he talked about this concept called the windscreen wiper technique. And so if you think of left brain people predominantly, or the left, we both have left and right brain, obviously. Some people are more predominantly left brain and some people are more predominantly right brain. So our left hemisphere of our brain is logical, it's analytical, it processes and sequences things, whereas our right brain is creative, it's more emotional, it uses symbolism and shapes and color and feeling and emotion. So if you think of a typical logical job, left brain job, it might be an IT specialist or an accountant, someone dealing in numbers, someone dealing in information technology, task-based people. And if you think of a typical right brain type worker, it could be an artist, a singer, a painter, an author, someone who thinks out of the box and has that kind of creativity. Now, we're all both, but you'll find that your audience is roughly 50-50 dominant. And we build that dominance based on how we spend our time. So if you are spending most of your time sitting in front of spreadsheets, you're not really honing that right brain side of yourself. And if you spend most of your time playing the piano and drawing pictures and doing pottery, you may not have really honed that logical side of yourself. So as we understand our left and right brain hemispheres, we can start to help our audience very quickly by going left brain, right brain, left brain, right brain. And this is the windscreen wiper technique that Brian Tracy talked about. It's a little bit more of a simple concept to understand than the 4 learning styles and the 4 ways that people process information. So if you're jumping on a Facebook Live, you would just want to think, okay, how can I back this up with logic and facts and stats? And then how can I add color, emotion, story to bring it to life? And you're probably dominant on one side or the other, so it's important to build out the side that you don't naturally fit into. So if you're more of a logical person, you've spent 40 hours that week in logical analytical tasks, then you might think about how you can use visuals and diagrams and how you can use your hands to create visual representations of what you're presenting. If you're using PowerPoints, you definitely want to use diagrams, visuals, analogies that bring things to life, metaphors, like I'm using the metaphor of the recipe of the cake throughout this presentation, right? So I'm going back and forth the logical by giving you the steps in order, but also weaving in this story, this analogy, metaphor of a recipe of a cake. So that's number 4, is really using a combination of the left and right brain hemispheres. And number 5 is of ingredients of a successful presentation is breaking down advanced concepts into simple language. So if you want to be super successful when you present, you want to hone the ability to take really tough, complex, hard things and teach them in a really simple way that people understand. And this is not always easy. I remember hearing this story where a guy said, hey, I want you to speak at my summit. How long do you need to prepare? And the guy said, well, that depends. How long do you want me to speak for? If you want me to speak for 5 minutes, then I'll need probably a week to prepare. If you want me to speak for 10 minutes, I'll only need a few days to prepare. If you want me to speak for half an hour, I'll only probably need a day to prepare. And it kind of goes against what we might think is logic, right? We think the longer the presentation, the more time we need to prepare, but it's actually the opposite. In order to condense information into smaller parts and make it really simple to understand, it's one of the hardest things to do. Anyone can just show up and throw up and just teach heaps of stuff, right? But to actually strip it all down and teach it in simple concepts that people understand, it takes thought. It really takes knowing your subject really well, knowing your topic really well, studying it, talking to lots of people, and sharing what I call ink spots. Ink spots. And I learned this off a mentor a few years back called Nettie D. Shout out to you if you're ever watching this. INK. I never knew that. Ink spots. So she talked about the concept of sharing ink spots. So breaking down information that people didn't actually know, that's quite complex, they can't get their head around it, but it's not, you don't want to just show up and teach things that people already know. For example, let's say you're a health coach. You don't want to say, okay, I'm going to do a presentation on 3 ways to improve your sleep. And so people show up on the Facebook Live and you go, number 1, turn your electronics off an hour before bed. Number 2, don't drink too much water before bed. You don't want to give obvious stuff that everyone already kind of knows, right? So you want to take something a bit more complex, like understanding why our system is disrupted when there's electromagnetic fields going on in our bedroom, and unpacking it in a simple way that people understand, so they're inspired to actually turn their electronics off before bed. So it's not a case of just telling people what to do. It's actually taking some kind of complex piece of content and making it really simple to understand, but actually inspire someone to take action. Because remember, the purpose of any presentation, whether that's a Facebook Live, a webinar, a workshop, you're showing up and speaking on someone else's podcast, whenever you speak and people listen, the purpose is to inspire someone to take action, not to just overload them with more information so that you can feel how smart you were, but to actually take a complex subject and break it down really simple so that that person is inspired to actually want to take action. And that is how you create successful presentations. The first thing you do when it comes to creating a successful presentation is you appeal to every type of learner. You appeal to every different type of person that's going to show up. And you make sure that you speak the way that people listen, not the way that you talk. Otherwise, you miss everyone else that's watching the presentation. Number 2, moving your audience, the ability to move people emotionally and move them to actually take action, not just absorb information. Number 3, you provide value, and value is something that educates people and is high on their values, helps them solve a real life problem that they have. Number 4 is using a combination of their left and right brain hemispheres, and using a bit of a windscreen wiper technique is a nice, easy way to do that, from logical to creative. And number 5 is breaking down advanced concepts into simple language. So my question to you is this: do you have knowledge that you would love to share with a group of people? Do you have experiences? Do you just have great skills and things that you would love to share with people? Because if so, one of the smartest ways to keep people's attention and to make sure that you're offering value to people and connecting with people is by running events. And this is the best way to have a presentation, create a presentation, structure it in a really great way that holds people's attention, because we all know that on social media and when people are out there scrolling, they're so distracted. We're all so distracted. So if you want to maintain people's attention, keep people engaged, offer them value, be able to educate them so that they actually understand what you offer, and also that you can help them move along that journey. When you use events, you can help so many people all at once instead of just going one by one by one. So not only does your impact increase, but also your income and your time flexibility and your freedom, so that you can run one event and educate 50 people or 100 people instead of doing that. If you think, okay, if you teach one person something for an hour, that's 1 hour, one person. If you had 100 people listening to you, that would have taken you 100 hours to impact 100 people, right? So if you've ever wanted to have a bigger impact and leverage your time and help more people and create presentations, even just like a 30-minute or 60-minute like an online presentation, it could be a webinar, could be a Facebook Live, but ultimately, if you can book someone into an event, the buying behavior is completely different on a Facebook Live as it is to a webinar where someone has to actually register and register for their place. The psychology is different. When people jump on a Facebook Live, they're just, oh yeah, that's interesting, I'll grab some information, then I'll jump off, right? So you don't want to be selling on a Facebook Live, but if you actually enroll someone into like a 60-minute Zoom event and it's on a set day, and they register and they show up, and you engage them and you use some of these principles that I've been talking about, then you're able to maintain their attention, and then you're able to actually deliver a presentation where people really connect with you, where they build that connection, that trust, and you're able to share with them all the things that they need to know. Like, think about everything that people need to know in order to be able to really trust you and what you offer. You just can't do it on a social media post. People are literally like this, right? So you've got to convey lots of content to them. But if you don't want to take months and months and months to do it, then running events is one of the most powerful things. So if you've ever thought, how do I run events? I want to do it, but I get freaked out about the technology. How do I structure my talk? When do I tell stories? How do I teach a piece of content? How do I create a metaphor? There's a specific way you need to structure the content of your presentation in order to keep people engaged. And in my upcoming event, I actually break down all of the steps and how to do it. So I would love to invite you to my upcoming free live one-day workshop. It's online. It's called How to Get Clients with Online Events. So I'm going to be sharing how to grow your business by helping more of your clients, how to use free events to reach people and reach more of your ideal client, and also reach your own personal goals, to impact more people, to help more people, and also to reach your financial goals, right? To have that freedom and that flexible lifestyle. If you develop the skill of being a presenter, you can really go anywhere in the world and you can always make money. Over the last 13 years, I've used events to attract clients, and particularly being able to attract an audience has been one of the most powerful skills that's helped me so much. I used to get about 90% of my clients from in-person events. Now I get most of them from online events because the world has changed. But having that skill of being a presenter and being able to build trust and connection, even if you struggle with nerves, even if you struggle with how do I make all the technology work, those are all things that you can easily learn. And these are all things that I can teach you because I've made heaps of mistakes, and now I teach other people how to engage the audience, deliver great content, build trust and credibility, and you'll be able to just copy the methods that I use to attract people, attract clients over and over again. It's one of the most valuable skills that you can learn. So check out the link if you'd like to grab a free ticket. I'll just pop it in the chat box. Hi Pauline, good to see you on here. So it's called How to Get Clients with Online Events. I'll just pop it in the comments now. So check it out, have a look at the link, and all the information's on there. I hope you got good value out of this, of how to create successful presentations with those 5 ingredients. Love to see you at the event so I can unpack actually how you do it and dive deeper into all the structure and strategies that I use to create successful events and actually make it a profitable business. You can grow a 6-figure business doing what you love, using the power of online events. So I would love to see you there. If you have any questions in the meantime, please let me know. Just pop it in the comments. I will reply to all of those. Otherwise, just PM me anytime. I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks for jumping on here. If you're watching the replay, just hashtag replay and let me know. What did you get out of this? Out of those 5 things, what was your favorite? I would love to hear. Talk to you again soon. Bye, my friends.